agenda as presented.
Motion.
Second.
All in favor? Aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Nay. Unanimous. First item on the agenda is department reports. Sandy Pitman, Finance Officer.
I'm gonna sit right here if that's okay. We're going to move the podium, if y'all don't mind. Sit here and get through them. We got a pretty good staff. The First Amendment number 98, we have received some revenue that we were not expecting, and this is just to budget that revenue to go into the fund balance.
Who's it from?
The hazard mitigation grant is a reimbursement of some money that was spent several years ago, and the state just now came through, apparently the paperwork was never filed, it was one in 02 or 03
We
or
talked about
something.
this a few months ago. This is that money from Billy Wynn that he did the hazard mitigation plan, and the feds are gonna pay for most of it. But previous emergency management director didn't file the paperwork, so it's been filed now, that's where that money comes from.
And the lottery proceeds, we were not expecting any more lottery proceeds, but the state came through and we did get some money. So
They made their final quarter distribution.
it was a nice surprise.
Yeah, we'll go.
So we just budgeted to put that right back in the fund balance.
So when we say fund balance decreased $83,000.
You know, the fund balance appropriated decreased. The fund balance appropriated is the money that we pull from fund balance to balance the budget. So that's 83,000 less that we'll have to pull from fund balance to balance.
So our fund balance actually goes up by
Yes, sir.
Great.
Number 99, these two items were left off of the budget last year when it was created. The cleaning services for the health department is in the agreement when the health department changed hands several years ago. Part of the agreement is that we would take care of that, and it was not budgeted last year. That is an annual payment. I believe that Toby's working, and we won't have to do this from here on out, correct?
We'll have to do it in the new budget.
They
We negotiate with Mary Parks, they're gonna pay for it this year. And well, next year, or 19 budget.
Okay.
And county services are not being used to do that.
Yes, sir. They contract out and we pay a portion of it. They pay it, and then at the end of the year, we reimburse them for our portion of that.
That's 43%.
I think it's 43% is what it was. The alcoholic rehabilitation, we get money from the state from the 5-cent alcohol tax per bottle. And that is money that comes in and goes right back out to Albemarle Regional Health Services. Last year, the revenue was budgeted, but it was not budgeted to be spent. So we had to do that so that we could send that money back out. It will be close to 2,000, but the money that goes out will only be what we bring in. So it'll offset itself. There was extra money in the animal shelter operation budget, so we have pulled these funds from there to cover this instead of going back in the fund balance. There were some cuts made to the animal shelter operation that allowed us some extra money in that line item this year. For the governing body, the retirees' health insurance line item in this department was going to be short. So I've moved some money from a line, the computer equipment line had extra money in it, and it's basically just reallocating money within that department to cover that shortage.
295.
Yes, sir. The budget for the tax department the same way. There are two lines that are short for the year, the FICA, and then the bonds and dues where we increased Renee's bond. We had to increase the line item to cover that. And there was some extra money in the hospitalization line that will cover that. So that also is just a reallocation of money within that same department. Which, most of these are that way. Number 102 for the Register of Deeds is the same thing. The contracted services will be about 125 short for the year. She had some extra money in the supplemental pension line that we moved to cover that shortfall. Building and grounds, number 103, same thing, salaries, FICA, we're going to be slightly short, and the repairs and supplies we've talked about before. The insurance line has been spent, and there was an extra $85.95 in that line. We have spent all the money we need to, the insurance, that payment has been made. So I've used that money to cover the shortfalls in the salaries and FICA, and put the remainder in repairs and supplies, to cover the existing shortfall and anything else that might come up before the end of the year.
Why do salaries go up?
excuse me. Back earlier in the year, Justin had approved an increase in hours for, Charlotte, our part-time employee, and I believe that was part of it, and it may have just been a budget issue at the beginning of the year. But we've done the calculations, and the next payment would put us short, so I'd rather prepare for it now. And the 6110, like I said, that's not all been spent, but that's there in case it needs to be. The 104 for the sheriff's department is really the same thing. The salaries in his budget would actually have been over in the year, but the supplemental retirement and FICA lines were going to be short, so we pulled the money from salaries to cover those lines. And then the telephone and postage and the fingerprint equipment maintenance will both be over budget, and there was extra money on the retirement lines, so we pulled from there to cover those shortfalls. 105 for emergency management. Same thing, vehicle expense was going to be short, telephone and postage had extra, so we moved that 500 to cover that.
Now, with most of these, is just moving something around.
Pretty much, yeah, most of them are within the same department, just trying to keep the line items where they need to be. The inspections department, number 106, is the same thing. We've reduced the travel line to cover shortfalls in the salaries, FICA, retirement, telephone, and postage lines. 107 for planning is the same thing. We moved 300 from office supplies to cover telephone and postage expenses. 108 is for cooperative extension, same thing. We moved money from her capital outlay line to the telephone and postage line. 109 is a little bit different. The Medicaid line for DSS will be slightly short. NCACC had projected that we would receive approximately $61,000 in Medicaid relief. I think it was stimulus funds, correct? And the federal government was going to pick up more than what they were. Unfortunately, that $61,000 only became $33,000. So now we're having to go back, and we knew that possibility was there. We were able to find it all in the DSS budget except for about $350. Which is the bottom line here that we pulled from the governing body computer equipment and maintenance line. There was extra money in there that would not be spent this year. So we've moved that here to cover that shortfall. We've already received notification of the draft, and this will be the final draft for the Medicaid, so this will cover everything. Number 110 is reallocating the E911 fund, but we have also received additional revenues for that fund. So that first line shows the increased revenues that we've received. The contracted services line was a little bit short, so we put some of it there, and the rest of it will go into the capital reserve for that fund. And the revenues received there, that's all the money from the fund bills.
I see where legislation is trying to be able to use some different parts of that 911 money.
Yeah, right now the E911 money is restricted to specifically answering of the phone. Doesn't deal with the computers, the desks, the chairs, nothing. It literally is answering of the phone. And they're trying to get more flexibility for the county.
Right. I was reading that this morning on my phone.
And this capital reserve fund, what was that?
Strictly E911. That is the money that we just budgeted to upgrade the E911 system. That's where that money came from, this capital reserve account. It can only be used for that.
Right. Because E911 money is designated money.
Yeah.
It's got to be 911 related. Period.
And can we use that money to put in that phone system that we keep talking about for emergency uses?
The code red,
Right.
911. No, not as a legislation.
Not right now, but
Right.
hopefully maybe after they do that.
Depending upon how much flexibility they give
Put
us.
in legislation.
But right now, no, because it specifically is answering of the phone. That's how the legislation is now.
It ain't calling out.
It's just something they're kicking around.
It's something that they're looking at.
Yeah.
It was in, do you get those legislative bulletins? It was in one of those.
It's
And I was actually, I picked mine up and was reading it this morning.
in the subcommittees right now.